It's the CBT Nugget series for ITIL Foundations 2011. I'm Chris Ward, and this nugget is a deep dive into IT service management and services. We're going to tell you a little bit more about these particular topics to help get you ready for the exam. Something that is really important for us to understand getting into ITIL is that there is a common theme that runs throughout IT service management. And that common theme is all about how we need to have our business, in this case, let's start talking about CBT Nuggets, how it aligns with your IT services that are going to be offered to your customers, or your, in our case, our learners that we have out there. And you are one of them. You're actually watching my CBT Nugget series on ITIL, and it all comes down to this company, CBT Nuggets, producing a service training to you. Now, part of the problem that we find is that we'll have an IT organization that is within a company, and they get really focused on just the technology and what's going on inside the company. And the problem is that can always, or I shouldn't say always, but it can really affect the people that are outside. In other words, we would say not everything inside the company, which is fine. We need to keep that up and running, but we are providing services to you guys, the learners, right? So here's a happy learner right down here. And we need to communicate how IT supports the business utilizing what IT service management does for us. So essentially, if you think about it, there are kind of layers of communication that are out there, and this is a pretty common diagram that you'll see and find in any of the IT service management. But I think it really will help you as you get ready for that foundations exam to think that, first off, you have your organization itself, and the organization is going to have things like strategic goals. It's going to have the objectives of the organization, and the objectives of CBT Nuggets is to provide the best training on the planet for learners, to help them better their lives. That's what our core values are, and to do it in a way that is engaging and fun, and with whiteboards and all kinds of stuff. That brings it obviously into alignment with our core business processes. These are going to be the activities that we have that produce the results for CBT Nuggets, which is basically creating training and making sure it gets out to the people. So we obviously, if we don't have our organizational vision, it's really hard to come up with your core business processes. Once you have that in place, you are going to, especially in our case, need an IT service organization. Okay, this is the infrastructure that we need to execute on all those core business processes. We need to be able to obviously create these great nugget videos. We need to be able to compress them and put them together and put them out on to the internets, so that way you guys can have access to them. But in the old days, believe it or not, if you're new to the company, we would actually put them on CDs and then eventually DVDs. And it was kind of funny. Dan Charbonneau, our CEO, would go out there and he'd have his copy machines in the beginning of the company, and he would just stick the CDs in and stick them in the mail. And obviously, over time, we have developed a very huge IT service organization, so that way we can have our operations group have accuracy in our records, make sure that we're facilitating the services, whether it's our SNAS group or anything like that. Then, of course, with that, once you have the organization, you need some sort of IT service management, which is basically the repeatable, managed, and controlled processes that we're going to use as an IT department that will help deliver the stuff that we have. And that, of course, is all based on the IT technical activities. This is actually having the computers in place. This is actually having the networking connection. We need a service provider that we use, an external service provider, in order to get the nuggets down to you. So when you apply IT service management to your company, you're going to get better quality service provision. You will have a design of services that meet your business, customer, and user demands. You're going to have integrated and centralized processes that make it even better. And of course, we like to call it the circle of life, where you are going to do continual service improvement. We're going to take our lessons learned from the things that worked and didn't work, and then we're going to go ahead and plow forward to make sure our company continues to grow and provide even better services to you. So that's kind of, I don't want to call it a plug for CBT Nuggets, but it kind of is. This is how we do things. And guess what? If we weren't doing correct IT service management, it wouldn't work very well, would it? And that's why it's important when you look at this from a ITIL Foundations level. IT service management is what this whole infrastructure library is all about, and how we make sure that we have each layer within this structure to support the layers above. This one goes up to here, this one goes up to here, and eventually it rolls back up. So just as much as it goes down, it rolls back up to, as you can see the arrows going over here, to a great company, CBT Nuggets. Something that you'll notice in each one of the books that are part of the service lifecycle stages, the books that we have, is they all have a common word. They have service in front of it. You have, or services, service strategy, service design, service transition, service operation, and even continual service improvement. Now, we're going to use throughout this series a story about Acme Coffee Incorporated. And so you can see here that we have our very happy customers coming in to get some coffee. Now, the thing about this is we're talking about a service, right? Now, there are obviously things that are going to be delivered to these people, but it is basically a service. Now, let me explain how this works. Now, services, as defined by ITIL, is going to be a means of delivering value to customers by facilitating outcomes that the customers want to achieve without the ownership of specific costs or risks. In other words, our happy customers that are walking in to Acme Coffee Incorporated, or just Acme Coffee, they want to be able to walk in and they want to be able to get a cup of coffee. Because, I mean, some people like doing their own coffee. I know a lot of my friends that like the whole drip thing now with the Chemex and the other ways that you can do it. But there are times when they just want to go out and have a cup of coffee without all the time and effort required to put into it. Because if they have to do it, they have to go out and they have to buy the coffee. They have to grind the beans. They've got to get the water to the certain temperature and then pour it. There's a whole process to the thing. And sometimes they just want to not have to clean up after themselves or keep doing it. And then someone shows up and says, hey, can I have a cup? And they're like, oh, now I got to do that for them too. So what happens is that they will go to a coffee shop that delivers the service that gives them the same outcome, which in this case is going to be a nice cup of coffee, maybe a sandwich or a pastry, without all the time and the effort that they had to put into doing it. That's what services is like. Now, in that, you would have your customers here, and we want happy customers. They are going to look at the quality and value of that service that's being provided. So what are some of the things that you'd want in a nice coffee shop? Well, you want to make sure it is clean. Can't tell you how it's horrible to wander around and find a nice coffee shop. Looks good on the outside, but then you walk in and it's dirty and there's flies and it's disgusting, and you're like, I'm not going to have a cup of coffee here. How friendly? Think about this. How friendly are the people that are waiting on you? What kind of store is it? Is it a nice store? They have the little pictures here, nice comfy chairs and tables they can sit on. Oh wait, maybe I want to sit up here at the bar and watch them do the process, and maybe even learn how to do a drip system like a Chemex or something like that. What are the selections that you have? Is that a broad enough selection, or is it maybe too much? Have you ever walked in and you look at that menu board and go, oh my gosh, there is so much on here. I just want a cup of coffee. And so maybe it's something like that they look at. And so there's a whole bunch of things, and maybe even how fast is the service? So we would say the service time. How quickly do they get their coffee? How quickly do they get their sandwich? How quickly do they get their food? But maybe are they feel like they're being pushed out of the coffee shop because they've been sitting there? Those are all things that people are looking for. Now, if any of these things are bad. Let's say it's clean, it's friendly, but the selection is just not good. Well, guess what? The perceived quality and value delivered to them is going to be a negative, right? Because even if you have all of, a couple of these, if you have one that's very important to them that isn't working, they might not want to come back to your coffee shop. So if you focus only on, think about this, if you're in an IT environment, if you're thinking about, how I'm focusing on how cool the application looks, or I want to make sure that I have the greatest networking virtualized environment in place. All right, but guess what? If you ignore the end-to-end service to get whatever that is. So at CBT Nuggets, if we ignore the fact that at the end you guys want quality nuggets that are delivered quickly and efficiently to your devices, and we're just worried about how well our virtualized environment is, we have missed the point. So you want to make sure that communication with your customers and end users is maintained. You want to make sure that resolution time, as things come in through a service desk, that things are handled quickly and efficiently. You want to make sure that everything that is happening in the IT organization is all about being proactive versus reactive. Not that you might not have to react, but you want to be proactive as much as possible. Because according to the service strategy book, service ownership is as critical to service management to establish ownership for processes that cross multiple vertical silos or departments. In other words, it's not only important to have the management of the service, we need to own that service, which is why you need to make sure that each service has an owner. Remember that. So that's a nice look at a couple of things with IT service management and a little bit more understanding of services and how they appear in the environment of your ITIL foundations. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.